Alright, welcome back everybody. About 3 o'clock. Thursday. Yeah, Thursday already. 2nd of May, if you can believe that. Back over to continue work. A little sequence of events tonight. What I'm going to do is get some filler all over the place. I'm going to put some fiberglass filler on my big repair spots that I haven't touched yet. And then some regular filler over a couple of the dings that I missed up here. And then I had some pinholes and stuff in the filler on the sail plate here. I'm going to hit that up with some of the polyester stuff and just kind of go around and make sure that I'm happy with the body and that I can fill everything and I don't need to do any more hammer and dolly work. I don't think I do. Down in here in these repairs on the fronts of the wings there and same on the other side, I get some regular filler on those and just kind of work my way around and then go back to cleaning some stuff and maybe some epoxy at the end of the night, but it depends on how far I get on the filler work. So that's the plan. This is fiberglass filler, short strand stuff. And what I've been doing with this is anywhere that I've done any weld repairs or anything, I've used this just to help me cover up some pinholes that I may have missed or just to provide a little extra strength than a regular body filler will do. I will go over top of this after I block it out with regular body filler. But it's like a greenish color. I don't know how well you can see that. This light's not the best right now. But it does separate a little bit, so you just kind of mix it up. There's 2 parts in here, I guess. And it mixes up with a cream hardener just like the regular body filler does. I don't know if it's a different color. This is like a tan color. I assume it's a different hardener. I don't know for a fact that it is. So I'm going to lay out some stuff here. I've got those patches that I welded in. I want to get those covered. And the dent that I fixed and then the patch on the driver's side. Before I do that though, I'm going to get some wax and grease remover on there just to keep it clean like I would if I was painting it. And then I'll come back and mix the stuff up and show you. Alright, so wax and grease remover is on there. It's just kind of drying out a little bit. This stuff works just like all the rest of this stuff does. You've got, I don't know, 10 minutes or so for it to working time on it. So it's not horrible, but you gotta be ready. So I got this pad here that it came with 100 sheets. I think it was 15 bucks or something like that by the Wesser Distributing in South Dakota. It's called Clean Sheets. So I've been using this. It's very convenient, very nice. So I'd recommend that if you're looking for stuff. I did have a plastic mixing board and I hated that thing. And I know some people use, just whatever they have laying around, but I wanted something that was a little bit more formal, I guess you could say. So I'll take some of this stuff out here and just put it on the pad. Try not to use too much of it. You can kind of see, I think, how this stuff is kind of stringy a little bit. If you can see those strands, that's the fiberglass that's in there. And the hardener works just about the same way. Kind of depends on the size. This isn't a real big thing of it, so I'm not going to put too much hardener in there. All right. Put a little dab of this in here. Now what I do with these little tubes here is I just kind of take my fingers and knead it just to kind of mix it up there so it, I know that it's mixed. Alright, and that's it, just that little dab. It's actually probably a little too much. Now this doesn't have, it's not as smooth as regular filler is. So it's a little different consistency, but mixes up just about the same. Yeah, too much hardener in there. So really my only concern for too much hardener, at least as far as I know, is it's just going to cure faster. I'm sure if you put way too much in there it would be brittle, but I'm not going to really worry about that. Alright, so I got that ready, and I'll get lined up here and show you what I'm doing. Alright, so this is that big repair on the passenger side here, and I'm just going to put it in all the little spots. Again, I'm not using this as filler per se, as much as I'm using it to help me around the repair. So I want to make sure I get it on the weld seams, and that's really about it. Alright, so that's about it. I got a couple other places that I hit, but I'll be off camera and I'll come back. Alright, so that's the driver's side repair there. And obviously, again, this is just to fill pinholes. This is not to actually affect any repair. Did this little spot on the boot lid there where I had welded in the areas of the new rear valance. Not as bad on this side, but I did it over there. And then they're all around on this. This was the dent repair that I did where I used the stud puller and all that kind of stuff. Now down here where I did this other repair, I already fiberglassed all that. So that still requires body work, but no fiberglass work because that's already got all fiberglass on the seam. So now what I'll do, clean this up real quick, and then I'm going to mix up some polyester filler and body filler also, both, and get polyester over top of the stuff that I've already put regular filler on. And then the spots that need regular filler, put the regular filler down. I'll explain to you when I get there. Went around with the flashlight and just using my eyes and my hands a little bit, just tried to find the bounds of spots that needed it again. Got that ding there, I showed you that. This whole section here has got several dings in it, so I'm just going to run a swath of filler over top of that. Good little knock there. Little knock there. And the rest of it needs polyester, but I'm not quite ready to do that yet. And then over here I got a couple knocks that I'll get to, and that's just Sharpie that's on there. But the rest of the sills look good down low and towards the front, the new parts. So I don't think I'm going to need any body work up there. Don't need any body work around the bulkhead or anything like that, so that's good. So I think I'm just concentrated pretty much from the B-post back here. So moving along. But I'll get some regular Rage Ultra stuff is what I'm using. This was, there's a whole bunch of different Rages that you can use by Evercoat. This is the one that I picked. It seemed to have pretty good reviews. SPI forum liked it, and I haven't had any problems with it. Like I said in the past, I wouldn't know what to compare it to really, but it sands pretty easily, and I have no complaints. Again, I wanted to point out I'm within my 7-day window on my epoxy here, so you don't need to do any prep whatsoever. I painted Saturday or Sunday, I don't remember which day I was over here. So that's it's Thursday, obviously, so well within my 7 days. After that, you would have to scuff this up with a 180 grit and then probably a red scuff pad before you'd put filler down. You don't have to maintain the clock, however, for filler. You do have to maintain the clock if you're going to put paint down, but that'll be a future discussion again. Alright, so the Rage filler mixes up just about the same way. Got the same kind of activator stuff here, except this is blue. So for about a 2-inch to 4-inch puddle here, 4-inch you just take a strip and you go all the way across, 2-inch you go about halfway across, so I'm going to go about 3/4 way across, I guess. And I've gotten used to this enough that I can recognize the color now that it needs to be, and it's not quite like a robin's egg blue, and I'll be able to tell you if I got too much activator in here or not. Now this is about as much as I would ever mix up in one shot, just because I don't get it down fast enough before it starts to rock up on me. Alright, so this is like a grayish blue color. That's what I want. Robin's egg blue, that wasn't the right thing to say. Robin's egg blue would be too much activator. Alright, we'll go ahead and get to it. Alright, so I got that down. You might not be able to see this, but when this stuff starts to cure up, let me see if I can get in the camera here without confusing myself. When this stuff starts to cure up, it starts to get gritty looking in my experience. And you can't really see it, but when you start to spread it out on the paper, see how it's, let me see if I can get that again. Hard to see where the camera, here it is. If you can, sorry that I'm all over the place. If you can kind of see how it's almost looks like sandpaper a little bit, that's how you know when it's, there it goes. That's how you know when it's starting to cure up, when it doesn't go on real smooth. And once you start to see that, I stop. And I don't mess around at that point. I put it in a couple more spots than I had originally intended to, but that's alright. Big old glob spot on there, that wasn't very smart. Pretty well, nice and smooth. A couple places on the sail plate here where it's where it needed it. And then I also got the lower portions of the wings. Show you better on this side down here. You probably saw me doing that, however much you could see, I don't know. But and then this fender, I had a couple nicks out of the fender where I was working it. If you remember, very long time ago, I put a patch in there, and I'll try to remember to link to that in a little box in your upper right-hand corner. But yeah, so now I'm going to let this stuff cure up. I'm not going to go with the polyester filler yet. I'll let this stuff cure up, and in the meantime, I'm going to get to getting back into the spray booth, or I should say the blasting cabinet, and clean up some more stuff. A couple pieces cleaned up here. That's about all I could get before the compressor started to really spit some water. So this is the at the end of the throttle linkage that goes to the carburetor. This is that steering column mount that goes up into this piece here, and of course that piece there, and then the two vanity covers for the wires on the steering column, using this one from this black car. And then like I said, this is that cover for the mount for the steering column. So I'm going to grab a bite to eat real quick, and then I'm going to get to blocking. Alright, so I got this side of the car here. What I'm going to do is flatten out this fiberglass filler and then start blocking out the regular filler. As far as sandpaper goes for this, I got one of those little cheesy sanders. I picked this up at Harbor Freight. I think it was only like 20 bucks. I've used this in the past, and I'm taking the fiberglass down with that because it's quick. I don't really care about the contour with the fiberglass. Again, all I tried to do here was cover pinholes, but then with the filler, I am more concerned about getting that true and flat. So I've got 40 grit to knock it down initially, give it a good shaping method there, and then I've got 80 grit to give me a little bit more, and then finish off with 150 grit. You can also use 120 grit, 150. I bought a roll. I would normally have used 120, but I bought a roll 150, so I'm just trying to go through it and going to work on taking some of this stuff out. I will be wearing safety glasses, even though I don't have them on right now, and a little dust mask. Not a heavy duty one, but just one of these little 3M ones like this, and just to keep the heavy stuff off. wanted to do with the fiberglass down here was just shape it a little bit. I don't really need it to fill in the gap. There is going to be, unfortunately, a good amount of filler here. It's really not that well accessible from the back, and I've already tried to pound it out as much as I could. I don't want to put any more studs in this. Now I'm moving up into here. Now you saw me going this way to try to take out the real high spots, and that's not really what I want to do. I want to follow the contour like this. It's going to take a while to do that, but I wanted to get just the gross stuff out of the way, because all I'm really covering up here is those little dings that I showed you. So I think it's a pretty low risk to mess up the contour, but now I've got a lot of the highs knocked off, so I'm going to switch over to going vertically like that, which, like I said, is a little painful. All right, so you can see what I've done here is I'm just going vertically up and down. Let me zoom out a little bit, sorry. So essentially all I'm doing is trying to take out the high spots and try to meet and flare it in. Now you can see here it's a real hard line, and you can know by seeing the hard line like that that you haven't gotten the filler down to the level of the metal. Once you start to get the filler down to the level of the metal, what you'll start to see is kind of what I did down here with the fiberglass, and you'll start, the line is a lot more hazy and fades kind of in. Now some of this fiberglass isn't perfect, obviously, but this is a good example right here where that line just kind of fades into the metal. Well, that's what I'm trying to achieve all the way around on this. Now the little darker spots that you see here, those are lows that the sandpaper hasn't touched yet. So I know I've got a lot of work yet to do in here, but I just wanted to show you what I'm looking for to know that I'm getting close or not getting close to meeting the contour of the panel. Alright, so if you can see this little cutout right here where it's dark gray, that's where the sandpaper hasn't touched it. And I can feel that, so I got a low spot right there. So I'm going to have to put some more filler in that. But this seems to have filled in pretty good over here. So I was off a little bit with my guess on where that filler needed to go, unfortunately. Now as I'm getting closer to knowing that I'm fading in all right, what I'm doing is kind of going to a crosshatch pattern, so I'm going up and back. Not as critically important, I don't think, right now, but as I get to the build primers and everything, that is real important to get all the scratches out of there. And again, let me temper all the things that I'm saying, that this is the way that I'm doing it. It's not necessarily mean that's the way that you should do it or that it's the correct way, but it's been what's working for me so far. It might not be the most efficient. There may be easier ways or better ways to get it done faster, I don't know, but this has been working for me so far. So I know up here, you can see I still got a pretty hard line. I hope you can see that. I don't know how far away you are, but still got a pretty hard line, and I expect that because I didn't really have any problems up here right on the seam. But down here, you can see that that's looking like it's starting to fade in. So I'm not quite ready to go to the 80 grit yet because I want to get these highs out of here, but it's getting pretty close. All right, if you look right here, that's a pretty hard line. So to make the point that you should be going with the contour and the panel vertically up and down here and not back and forth like I originally started off to knock the highs down, I haven't been able to get that down yet, and I've been working on it a little bit, right? So now I'm going to go back and forth and I'll show you something. Now you look at that, I just faded that line right out. So now that would potentially trick you into thinking, all right, I'm flush with the panel, but I'm not. So take your time and go vertically to that you don't convince yourself that you're flush when you are. I did that a bunch of times and ended up having to go back and do some filler work. I probably did it on here a couple of times, which is why I'm going back. But that's definitely not easy to make it look like you're at the level of the panel when you're not. Alright, so I think that's good on the 40 grit. You probably really see the scratches there and see how deep they are. So now I'll use 80 grit to get rid of the 40 grit scratches. Again, same method, running it vertically up and down and with a little crosshatch. Now another thing, and you would think that this is obvious, but at least it wasn't to me, I concentrated on getting the scratches out of the Bondo or out of the filler and not so much cutting it out of the paint. And I can show you on the other side, especially where that you can tell because I don't have all the scratches out of the car. So when you're going down through your grades of sandpaper, each successive grade and number that you go up is designed to take out the scratches from the previous, from the previous level. Make sure that you cover the entire area, right? You can see the scratches obviously right here. They're not as easy to see in the epoxy, but they're there and you can feel them. So you want to make sure that you're covering the entire area and just not concentrating on the filler when you're trying to take these scratches out. Another thing, I know I'm talking a lot. Another thing is what I don't have a feel for is what scratches look like. So sometimes it's hard for me to go, yeah, that looks like the scratch pattern of an 80 grit, or that looks like the scratch pattern of a 120 or whatever. Now the 40 is pretty obvious because it looks like you took a knife and gouged it in some spots. But you can see already, hopefully I'll zoom in here, work on a little bit more and I'll show you. This is starting to smooth up pretty good, but I don't have a real good feel for going, that's good enough, it's time to move to the next grit. So what that results in is sometimes I'll put the epoxy back down or even the filler or the 2K build primer on it and you'll see the scratches through. So just something to keep an eye on and be aware of as you do this to try to, train yourself on what to look for. All right, I think that's pretty good on the 80. You can see this. I'm sure that I had worked on this before. I don't remember, but you can kind of see that ring around there. That's a high spot. Obviously, the low spot in the middle. So this darker gray spot that hasn't gotten hit yet with any sandpaper, you can see that's almost directly in the middle. And I got a little high spot taking these two little low spots out. Probably just leave that and work over it with more filler because it doesn't feel like that high spot's really all that high. I might tap it down a little bit. But anyway, I think we're good on the 80. Time to move to the 150. All right, so as I've been working this down, you can see that these patches are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Less and less filler in there, and that's what you want, hopefully anyway. And you can also hopefully see that it's kind of, instead of being able to really see discrete scratches like you can down here, it's getting more of a cloudy look to it. And that's also to know that you're stepping through your sandpaper is okay. So you can see, I think that's on camera, you can see that little dot right there. That little dots, couple little dots right there. I got some sanding up here to do, and then a relatively long stream here. But if you remember, this was all solid and thick. So again, there may be a more efficient way. Maybe I should be putting this stuff on a little bit thinner. But it's it's work, but it's working. So I'm happy with the way that it's coming out. I'm going to go over this little spot in the front here. It's kind of isolated, and see if I can take you all the way through that and going through the grades. The other thing about moving through the grits of sandpaper, you put 40 down and then you go to 80 and then you go to 120 or 150. You got to go in smaller steps. You just can't go 40 and go, okay, great, I'm going to go to 220 because that's what I, skip a couple steps. You will spend, a very, very much longer time, not speaking proper English tonight, going from skipping grades of sandpaper and trying to get the scratches out than just slowly incrementing your way up. As this filler or epoxy, I've got 4 coats on here now. You can see, even though I've been sanding on this pretty good, only on the high spots am I really going down to bare metal. So yeah, I'm going to have to hit it again, but I expect it to anyway. But as I get a little bit more and more mils of epoxy on there, it gets a little bit more and more forgiving, and it starts to act as a build primer. Anyway, I'll come over here and see if I can show you this spot, and then I'm going to stop with this stuff and show you something kind of totally different. All right, so I put a big old glob. I don't know how well you can see that with the shadow. Huge glob down here. That was a mistake. I tried to go back and get that out of there. I wouldn't normally put it on that thick, but there's some random stuff around. So I'm going to start with the 40 grit here and really try to take you through this so you can see what it looks like as you move down. All right, now there's a body crease right here. So I know that the dent is not in that crease. So I'm trying to focus the sanding paper to try to get that Bondo out of there, that filler out of there. You can see how much that 40 grit already took this down in just that couple seconds of blocking. All right, so I got that Bondo out of the crease, but there's still 40 grit scratches in there, so I'm going to have to go back. Even though I just took that 320, I wanted to make sure there was no filler there. So now I can start to actually block a little bit, still really high down here. All right, starting to take care of it, and you can hopefully see the scratches in it from that 40 grit. It's not that cloudy look like it was over here, but more of a hard look to it. And I can just start to see my Sharpie marker in there. Still feels a little high. All right, I think that's good. Now, right here, you can see I've got scratches, so I've been smacking that part of the fender flare with the 40 grit, so you got to go back and get that stuff. All right, so now I'm going to move on. Just went through the 40 grit. You can see how rough that is. Now I'll go to the 80 grit. Now a smaller block probably would have been a help there. But again, you can see now I'm pretty much completely down, and you can see my Sharpie. Almost all of the filler is now gone, with the exception of what just filled in that little bump there. So feels pretty smooth, getting the cloudy look to it, so I'll go to the 150. Again, the normal increment would be 120 here, but the 150 is okay, at least for me. All right, but essentially that's the name of the game. Again, somebody a little bit more experienced that knows what they're doing, probably going to do this more efficiently, not find the random low spot every once in a while like I just found 2 of them. But that filled that in, and now it's down to 150. Again, 120 would be a better choice here, but 150 is adequate. And now, essentially, once I do the rest of the filler, this panel and this area and back here is ready for another round of epoxy primer. And then I'll go into a higher grade. Instead of starting with 40, the next round won't be any filler whatsoever, maybe some polyester filler, but nothing aggressive like the regular filler was. And instead of starting at 40 or 80, I'm going to start at 150 and then go to 220 and then hopefully 320 and on my way to build primer. Now I think you can see, no you can't. Alright, I want to show you one more thing and then I'll shut up. You can see here I just hit this area. Yep, zoom out. You can see here I just hit this area of 150 and you can still see the heavy scratches in that. So that tells me that the sandpaper is not adequate here and I want to go down to 80 or even maybe 120 to try to get these scratches out so that it becomes more cloudy like this. And then I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but there's scratches in this epoxy down here kind of buried, and you can see hopefully in the light, at least I can see they look shiny. Those are scratches that I left in and did not get out before I hit this thing with epoxy again on the last visit. So you can leave the scratches in here, and the epoxy is so thin that it's not really designed to fill, but I wouldn't expect that either. Okay, so I'm done with this here, and I want to move on to something else and show you something that I think is kind of cool. All right, what you see here is that steering column support that goes underneath the dashboard. And what I'm going to do with it now is paint it in Wrinkle paint. This is the VHT Wrinkle Plus, it's called. It's semi-high temperature stuff. If you want to do valve covers is what it's got a picture of. I did do the instrument cluster panel on it, and I've done this before. Essentially what you do, you got to mix the heck out of it because it's relatively thick, and then you put 3 coats and you do them in 3 different directions. So I'll go like this way first, and then this way, and then diagonally, and about 5 minutes in between each coat, I think is what it says here. So it says mask off surrounding areas, use at temperatures between 60 and 95 degrees, humidity less than 60%. I'm at 67 degrees in here, 45% humidity, so that's good. Shake the heck out of the can, 8 to 10 inches away. Apply at least 3 heavy coats in a cross hatch pattern. First coat vertically, second coat horizontally, third coat diagonally, 5 minutes between each coat. A relatively heavy film thickness is required for the product to wrinkle. And then what I understand is the idea behind this is you get a heavy coat on the bottom, then you wait 5 minutes so it starts to cure but it's not completely dry, and then you slam it with another coat, another heavy coat, that starts to cure but not completely dry, and then you slam it with another coat and that starts to cure but not completely dry, and then as it does start to dry all 3, it forms the wrinkle. Now it also tells you to bake it in an oven at 200 degrees to kind of set it, and I don't do that. What I've done previously is I got my heat gun here, and I'll use the heat gun to show the wrinkle and help the wrinkle along. There is a couple of captive nuts in here. I put paper towels in the holes on those instead of using earplugs so that I didn't cover up any of the metal that I wanted painted. So again, I'm going to go sideways and then do the sides. As far as the inside goes, it's that is bare metal right now, but I'm just going to prime that when it's all done. I'm not going to paint that, or if I do paint it, it'll be black. I'm not going to do wrinkle coat with it, I don't think. And obviously I'll have to mask everything off before I do that. But I wanted to show you this because if it works, which you knows, but if it works, it's pretty cool. All right, so we'll wait 5 minutes. All right, coat number 2 coming. First time I did it like this over here and like that on the sides. So now I'm going to go up and down like this and a little bit more difficult like that on the sides. All right, 5 more minutes. All right, third coat. I'm going to put this one on a little bit extra heavy, and then I'll give it another 5 minutes, and then I'll pull the heat gun out and we'll see if it works. All right, 5 more minutes. All right, it's been 5 minutes on the third coat. The instructions say just to let it dry. I'm using the heat gun. That's what I did the first time around. I'm not going to stick this in my oven at home. The heat gun will help cure it. It is going to sit here for a while too. You don't want to handle it or assemble it for a good couple days. It dries very, very slowly. But I am going to hit the heat gun, and I'm hoping that you can see it start to wrinkle up. The wrinkle should be relatively tight if it's anything like my dashboard was. I was happy with the way that that came out. So we'll see how it works here. If you look, I don't know if you can see it, but it's starting to wrinkle up on the cardboard. It's kind of neat. All right, I'm starting to get it now. Here it comes. Doing it on the top, still waiting for it on the sides. Hopefully you could see that wrinkle up. I absolutely love this look. screams old classic car to me. Both British, whatever. I know the British were popular. I'm sure others have used it. I know my brother's Datsun Roadster had a crinkle finish, I think on the dashboard, if I remember right. Just absolutely love the look of this. Now, if you let it dry naturally, from what I remember, the wrinkle will not be quite as tight as it is here. But I dried my dashboard, and I'm going to dry a couple other things too, just to keep the pattern relatively the same. So anyway, that's the VHT wrinkle paint. And like I said, sometimes I call it crinkle paint. Like I said, I think it really comes out really well, and I think it really completes the package as far as trying to get the look of the original stuff. So that's all I've got for tonight. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good rest of your week, and I will see you this weekend. Cheers.